What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another gameplay video. Today we have myself on the left playing the Darius baited hook deck that I featured on the channel late last week, and on the right we have my friend Danny playing the mid-range ramp version of Master Yi, featuring the typical tasty Fey Folk line that we've been seeing in the Chinese regional circuit. Sorry for the glare on my chosen champion. It is Darius Trifarian. I'll pop one up on screen for you guys to read now. But as far as the game goes, I do get to go first, and I have to go with a pretty interesting play. I actually ended up floating a yellow energy to then play the yellow seal so that my leader Legion would be active, so that I could play the Faithful Manufacturer to then generate a token, because I didn't hit a turn 2 play, and there's the card I forgot to draw for turn, but I do remember it didn't actually change anything. So this is the play I had to go with for turn 1. It does give me a decent tempo start in terms of units to the board, where I can take battlefields, the two battlefields being Trifarian Warcamp and Grove of the God Willow. However, being set back on runes and being at the same number of runes as Danny right now does feel a little bit bad, but I do think it's something that the tempo advantage is probably worth, because, you know, passing on my first turn would probably just be a whole lot worse. So the fact that we also have the baited hook for turn 2 here is huge, and since I am playing baited hook down to the board, it does activate the Legion on our Darius Legend. So I am going to go ahead and choose to sacrifice the Faithful Manufacturer, because in the Trifarian Warcamp it's a 3 might unit, which means I can hit any unit in my deck for the most part, and I do hit the Spectral Maiden here. So we're going to go ahead and revive the Faithful Manufacturer, pretty much meaning we lost absolutely nothing. That was probably the best hit I could have gotten in this scenario. We wouldn't want Draven yet. It's a little bit too early. Danny also showing that he didn't have the most ideal turn 1 play. He had to drop a first mate, which again is better than playing nothing. However, he does have a free way into the Trifarian Warcamp, which is going to be hard for me to get over via battle, because the legend ability, of course, gives the +2 to the unit defending alone, and then Warcamp gives it an additional +1. So getting over a 6 might unit purely by combat, it's going to be a little tough. We have some tools to do it, but it would be pretty tough. So looks like he's debating on whether he wants to go, and he's actually going to contest in the God Willow Grove. And that's a great play, because I am putting a lot of pressure on him there, where if I hold that battlefield, I'm going to be generating tons of draws, which he doesn't want me to do, right? So he could have went and kind of played the game of chicken over in the war camp and made it hard for me to deal with that battlefield, but at that point I'd be up points. So if we never contest each other's battlefields, I would win the long game. So he does end up using a discipline to go into the God Willow Grove there to clear me out, not let me draw cards. I do, however, have a pretty open path to take both battlefields, and once again I am going to use the baited hook to sacrifice the Faithful Manufacturer. We do hit a Draven now, which, given the fact that I'm at 4 points, is an absolutely insane hit. It's a 7 might unit off of the baited hook, and this is a great example of a game where baited hook is hitting on all cylinders. Like, the turn 1 was a little bit weird because I had to play Faithful Manufacturer, bring myself down to 1 energy, but you can see how it's paying off in dividends. The tempo I generated and the little bit of luck I'm getting off of the baited hook here, that's what Darius looks to do. And I think that's why Darius is not one of the more super competitively successful decks, because, you know, it doesn't always hit like this, right? And we're going to see an example in the second game. There are 2 games in this video. We'll see an example in the second game where I don't exactly hit on all cylinders and things could have gone a little bit better for me. But still, I mean, that's the gamble you take when you play a deck like Darius, right? So we are going to see Danny here cast his Master Yi honed for 7. We'll see if he has something to contest the Draven battlefield, although he definitely doesn't, because he is tapped out here. So he's going to go ahead and just throw a huge unit into the war camp, get on the board in terms of points. Kind of crazy that, honestly, he hasn't been able to really score here. Next turn, though, he could do something along the lines of, like, play a White Flame Protector and then drop the power on the Yordle, although he's going to decide to put the Yordle in the war camp because I'm threatening the Draven on my base with potentially like a cleave or something else to just take it all over. So yeah, Danny's in really a rough spot because of the tempo lead I got early in this game. I am going to go ahead and hard cast a Vayne, which comes in play active thanks to the fact that he controls a battlefield. So now I'm just wondering on the math, like, should I throw the Draven and the Vayne here, which seems like I should. It is going to be 13 before the War Camp modifiers, and that's just big enough to get over his battlefield there. And really, I mean, this is a 6-1 game already. This is going to be a really hard one for him to crawl back into. We did talk about some play lines that would have potentially allowed him to do it. It probably would have required something like 3 charms in 1 turn. But we'll see what Danny does here to try and deal with this board before we do go into our second game. He is going to drop a Dead Bloom Predator right into the War Camp, which is not going to deal with the battlefield on its own, although, actually, yes, it does. I'm forgetting that Vayne doesn't have the power on defense. So, yeah, he does actually clear out the entire War Camp with Dead Bloom Predator, which is pretty solid. So, he does prevent the double hold for game. Now, we're going into my next turn, though. We do have the Dravens here, and all I really have to do is hold this God Willow Grove, which has generated me so many draws this game. So, that shouldn't be too difficult of a task. And we're going to see myself drop a Darius into the battlefield and just put everything there. I mean, this is not a blue matchup where we have to worry about a card like Unchecked Power clearing out the battlefield. He would have to have some crazy shenanigans to clear this out, and I do miss on the baited hook on the 1 Might Recruit token there. Can't have perfect RNG, so not too mad about that one. I do just drop a Trifarian Glory Seeker from hand into the God Willow Grove. So I'm sitting on, what is that, 10, 15, 18 might in the God Willow Grove. We'll see if Danny has some sort of play he can muster here. He does drop the Find Your Center to try and draw into something. And again, it's probably going to take something like 3 charms. Actually, if he had 3 charms, he would actually clear out the God Willow Grove. Again, it wouldn't necessarily mean he would win, but it would actually put him in a somewhat decent spot. He's going to go ahead and drop the Clockwork Keeper, generating another draw, probably just digging for charms at this point. And he does go ahead and hit 1 charm. He'll pull over the Darius, with which I do trade into the Clockwork Keeper. And that's actually his misplay that we talked about. I think he had double charm before the Clockwork Keeper. So if he would have just double charmed before playing the Keeper, he could have then played the Keeper after, but he still didn't hit the 3rd charm, so it didn't really help. So with that being the case, you saw the perfect showcase of Darius hitting on all cylinders. We will be getting into game 2 now. So game 2 here, our battlefields are Candlelit Sanctum from the Darius side, and we have Aspirant's Climb from the Master Yi side. And I don't quite remember who's going first, but we are going to go through our mulligans here, see who ends up getting the advantage of going first. It is definitely pretty important in Riftbound, as it is with most card games. Danny going to be doing his mulligan here. And we have Danny taking the first play of the game, simply dropping a Stalwart Poro, very standard for a build of Master Yi such as this. We have myself on 3 runes here, so if I do hit the double turn 2 play, or the double 2-drop play rather, which it looks like I do, we should be off to a pretty good start. This is one of the ways that Darius can really establish tempo over an opponent, but the thing about Master Yi is once he throws that Poro into one of the battlefields, I'm not going to be able to take that battlefield for free. So that is one of the interesting things about this matchup in particular. Darius being a super aggressive deck and Master Yi being a defensive mid-range deck, it's almost like the polar opposites are at play here. So Danny's going to go ahead and take his first point at the Sanctum, look at the top 2, try to fix his draws a little bit, deciding on what he might want to put to the bottom, what he might want to keep on top. And now that Poro is going to be 3 might from Shield and then another 2 might from the Master Yi. So that's going to be a 5 might unit that I really can't get over unless I have something like a Cleave to help me get over it. And even then, if he doesn't tap out this turn, he's going to have access to potentially tons of different battle buffs. So we'll see what he has there. He is going to drop some sort of 2-drop here. Looks like a Pit Rookie. He'll be dropping that and buffing the Poro. So now it's going to be a 6 might unit I have to deal with before any sort of battle modifiers. And he is going to tap out here. So if I have the battle buffs to do it, I can get over the Poro. That is going to be a little bit easier said than done, though. So we'll see what we can muster here. We're going to go ahead and throw the Glory Seeker into the Aspirant's Climb. And I think that's mostly because I want to drop the baited hook here. And since the Glory Seeker is buffed, I can hit any 4 might unit in my deck, which can potentially be very, very helpful. So we will go ahead and drop the effect of the baited hook, getting rid of the Glory Seeker here. Take a look at our top 5, see what we can get. I think we're hoping for something like a Vayne, potentially. I don't know if we have a Cleave in hand to combo with it. I do see a Glory Seeker in hand. I do see a Kaisa in hand and a Vanguard Captain, which is our eventual choice here. And I think I go with Vanguard Captain instead of Kaisa, specifically because it generates more might. And the way I'm looking at this board state right now, there's just a ton of might in that Sanctum battlefield that I need to deal with. And Vanguard Captain helps me get there just a little bit more. One big problem, though, I'm sitting on 2 Dravens in hand, which is just really clunky. I really wish I could trade one of those out for some sort of 2-drop. That would be really, really nice, but unfortunately, not that lucky. So we're going into Danny's next turn here. He is up on 5 runes. He is holding with the Poro at the Candlelit Sanctum, so he won't be able to scry again this turn, but he will be able to get a free double score. And now there's just another problem in another battlefield that I have to deal with. He's going to go ahead and drop a Find Your Center, getting a ramp and a draw. I imagine he's keeping 2 open here for potential defensive plays, but I do see him flipping through at least 1 charm, possibly 2 charms in hand. We'll see if that ends up coming down this turn. Looks like he's going to go ahead and pass turn with 2 open, so I'm going into my 6 rune turn, potentially 7 runes, because our leader is Darius. We'll see what the best thing I can muster up here is. This is looking a little bit rough, although I did hit considerably well my turn 1 and turn 2, like double 2 drop into baited hook. Definitely not bad, but it's not an auto win by any means. So I am going to specifically go with the Poro and the Vanguard Captain into the Clockwork Keeper, because if he decides to discipline, that ties out at 6 might each. He would have to have like double on guard to get out of this efficiently. Even then, it is going to cost him 2 cards from his hand, and the odds of him having 2 on guards is somewhat unlikely. So he is going to go specifically for the discipline. So definitely a more worthwhile trade for Danny. So not something he should be too worried about. But I did clear out his 1 battlefield, so I can score here. The problem is, though, that Poro is still staring me down. I will drop the Darius Trifarian, though. And then the second unit I play off of the baited hook, as long as I don't miss, hopefully, should allow me to contest his Poro. And I do hit a Vayne here. Thank goodness I didn't whiff on that. So we have the Darius restanding. We have the Vayne standing up because he is in control of the battlefield. So now actually this Poro is not looking too impossible because it is a base 6. He is tapped out. So Darius coming in super, super clutch, showing why it is the better chosen champ as opposed to the yellow Darius. I do have 1 energy left here. Not too much Danny has to be worried about from the defensive side. Like I could, in theory, tech something like Hextech Ray, which in this case would actually be pretty good, but it's not a typical card in Darius builds, so not too much of a thing he has to actually worry about. Although maybe a good sideboard tech against Master Yi, something to consider, because they attack in as 2 and 3 might units, but when they're defending, they're so much bigger. So having the Hextech Ray to potentially prevent, that's how you speak English, to potentially prevent the Pit Rookie from even getting into the battlefield would be pretty cool tech. So maybe that's a good Yi answer. He's going to go ahead and drop the Deadbloom Predator right into the Candlelit Sanctum, taking care of the Darius pretty easily. I am pretty happy with how this game is going because I have caught back up on points, even though Danny's still in the lead, and by the end of this turn, he will probably be on 6 points, although actually, I do remember we talk about this. He doesn't drop the Pit Rookie into the Aspirant's Climb because he would just lose it for free, which is true. Like, he tapped out, it would be a 4 might unit, Vayne would swing over it for free, although we did talk a little bit about if the point is worth giving up the Pit Rookie, but I do understand where you're coming from, though, like completely giving up your base presence to potentially attack over things. Like next turn, if I drop something in the climb, he could swing over it, but since I do have the baited hook, that's not likely to happen. This is like exactly the situation where you want to be as a baited hook player, where you can just throw a token into an Aspirant's Climb and then sack it with baited hook, although you don't want to be missing off baited hook like I did there, so that's kind of unfortunate. I will, however, drop a Draven. I mistakenly tapped my legend because I forgot that I missed off baited hook. That doesn't usually happen, but it's important to note here. And now I do tap out for the Daring Poro, and this is actually a huge misplay here. We'll talk about why in just a second. Establishing the Poro was probably not worth what's about to happen to me here. We'll see why that is in just a moment. Danny going into his 8 rune turn. And seemingly the world is his oyster. He has the Pit Rookie to go into the climb, and he's going to tap 1 here, charm up the Draven, which is a 7 might unit. I don't have any battle buffs, and the biggest problem with this turn is I do actually have a cleave in hand, where I could have potentially crashed into that Deadbloom Predator. Ultimately, it's a moot point because we do see he has Discipline in his hand, so he would have been able to protect the Deadbloom Predator, but if he didn't have a battle buff in hand and I did keep the energy open for the cleave that I had in my hand, that could have honestly been game changing. So we can see here how I did hit pretty well on the baited hook shenanigans as well, although this game's looking a lot worse. So he does have 4 open, which means I'm probably not getting much done in the way of battle here. I am going to swing in to the Pit Rookie. This is going to be a 3 into a 4. I am passing on spells. He's going to discipline there. Actually, no, sorry, I cleaved before I swung in, so I'm not passing on spells. But yeah, he does have double battle buff, which answers the Daring Poro, which is pretty much going to wrap up the game. I don't have anything with Accelerate that can really help me out here. So yeah, shuffling back and forth a couple of useless cards in my hand. That's going to wrap up today's gameplay, guys. So if you guys enjoyed the video, definitely let me know in the comments below. Hopefully you guys got to see a good showcase of how Darius works and maybe a little bit of how the Master Yi matchup goes. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you did enjoy the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.